Alright, so what's going, bro? Welcome back to another installment of edutainment. Now, should you pay off debt first or invest? This is an age-old question that a lot of people will be wondering and thinking about and pondering their thoughts upon. Now, the oversimplified answer is that if the rate of return of your investment is lower than how much interest you're getting charged on your debt, student loan, or credit card, you definitely want to pay off the debt first. Even if you have an investment, if you still have debt just in general that you have, you should try and pay off all debt first. Get rid of your student loans, get rid of your car note, get rid of your credit card, and then focus your money on your investing. It doesn't make sense to disperse your income into multitude of buckets. Fill one bucket up first, or empty one bucket first, then work towards the next bucket. But Marko from WhiteBoard Finance is gonna go into it, and we'll see if his stuff or whatever he says gets my little codes on. You know what I'm saying? So gonna get into it. Gonna increase your financial muscles. But yeah, let's get into it.
Everybody, welcome back to WhiteBoard Finance. My name is Marko, and I'm here to help you master your money and build your wealth. In this video, we're going to talk about the controversial topic of should you pay off your debt first or should you take that money and invest? So I'm going to talk about like the philosophical side of things. I'm going to talk about the actual debate points as well, which aren't really that complicated, but you'll see what they are. If you don't know them, you'll definitely learn from it. And then also I'm going to ask you 4 questions which will help you kind of understand where you're at and if you really should pay off that debt or if you should invest. So for the math nerds, I hate to disappoint you. This video is not going to go too in-depth into math. It's going to go into a couple different things, but we're not going to dissect every penny and every dime in this video, okay? This is more of a video to get you thinking about the big picture and if you're ready to invest or if you're ready to pay off debt. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So I'm going to go into the philosophical side of things right here. So debt sucks. Everyone knows that. Right. Debt is the worst. There's definitely good debt. There's definitely bad debt. But in general, most people don't want to have debt, okay?
Most times, if you do have the good debt we refer to is usually business debt. Like you already have a business model in place, already have a proven system in place, and they're using the debt to essentially accelerate the process. But most often than not, there's no really good debt. Even all those cashback and travel credit points, like how often are you actually traveling and just in general, even with credit cards, it's not necessarily that you have an issue paying it off every month, but you just tend to spend more on a credit card than just regular like debit or even your own cash, right? Because there's no excess like credit. It's either you have the money or you don't. No cap.
So debt, I'm going to get into one of my famous drawings here. One of my other viewers said that my animal drawings are really good, and I said maybe I should start drawing children's books, and he said I'd give them nightmares. All right, so if this is a person, debt is kind of like a big weight on your shoulder, okay? So that says 50 kilograms, 50 pounds, whatever. So debt is a big weight on your shoulder, and it's always on your conscience as well, okay? So it's kind of like this never-ending thing that's just always like, hey, I'd like to do this, but I have all this debt. I would like to invest in this, but I have all this debt. I want to take this vacation, but I can't. I have all this debt. So it's kind of like a never-ending weight that's always chipping away at you. So debt obviously can cause stress. It can cause marital problems. I did read something that said 57% of divorces had some sort of financial component or financial stress to them, and I think the rest is from social media.
If you really want to have a very good relationship-wise, and especially leading towards a marriage, you want to make sure you're on the same pace financially. Like, what is it that you're trying to do with your debt, her debt, and how are you going to work towards paying each other's stuff off? Because once you are together, everything is one, right? So you want to see is she a spender? Are you a spender? Are you a saver? Can you F this person on a financial basis? And can their income support you, your income support them, stuff like that.
But that's a different conversation for a different day. You can make hasty decisions when you have debt. So say, for example, heaven forbid, you get laid off and you have to take another job. Instead of being in the market longer and finally picking that dream job that you want, maybe you don't have the time to take that dream job and you have to make a hasty decision and take the crappier job that you don't want just because, you have no choice. You have this over-looming debt, okay? So at the end of the day, personal finance is obviously financial and it's personal, but a lot of it's behavioral rather than mathematical. So some of the common talking points that come up in this debate are typically, Marko, if I want to invest the difference, I can make 10% instead of paying off whatever the loan is. Let's call it, student loans at 6 or 7%. Okay, they're thinking that they can make a spread of that 4 to 3% by investing in the market rather than just paying off the student loan debt. So everyone knows that paying off your debt, say these are student loans, is a guaranteed rate of return. Okay, so if these are student loan debts that have 6 to 7%, if you pay this off right away, let's just say you have 20 grand you paid off today, you are guaranteeing yourself an annual rate of return for this amount because you're not paying the interest on that. So, then you get the comment that I mentioned earlier is that, hey, I can invest this 10%. I can kind of just service this debt as it comes along, the minimum monthly payment, and I can invest the difference instead of paying off the student loan. I can put this in the market and kind of make that spread. Yes, that's absolutely true, but that typically comes from people that haven't been investing for that long and have never experienced a downturn in the market. So these are people that are usually, mid, late 20s. They watch a few investing videos on YouTube, and they're like, yeah, man, I can make this for sure. And they have some experience in the market, but ultimately they don't remember 2008 where everyone lost 40, 50% of their portfolio pretty much over the course of a year. So with that being said, this is definitely a viable argument. However, I would say that a guaranteed rate of return, it's kind of like a bird in the bush or a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. That's something that I would personally consider. So another talking point is, Marko, if I put all my money towards the student loan and I'm not investing in my 401k, I'm missing out on essentially free money or the free match that my employer would make. Okay, that's also a viable argument as well. The only thing I would say to that is that if you still keep the overhead, the debt service, the interest, the monthly cost it takes to actually service that debt, are you even coming ahead with the free match? So depending on how much overhead you have with the debt, how much interest you're paying on that debt, that may even be negating the free contribution that your work is giving you. Yes, it's going to grow over time because it is your 401k, and I understand all that, but right now I'm just thinking philosophically.
I know a lot of people also think about the compound interest that they're missing out on, essentially. Obviously, yeah, but like, you want to just be free from having to borrow or having to answer to anybody, you know what I'm saying? Once you're free of that, then you can go all in, use all the money that you now have from paying the debt, the monthly debt, and just go hard with the investing. It's simple. Like, I don't know why people gotta make it more complicated than it is. Right?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Like, you're trying to game the system by making an extra 3 or 4% difference from the rate of return and the actual interest rate. Just handle your credit card debt, handle your car note, handle your student loans. Move into your parents' house, sleep on the couch if need be, but downsize your lifestyle a bit so that you can accelerate the process by which you're paying the debt, and you can start reaping the benefits of compound interest from your investments.
To say, hey, would it be worth paying off this debt right here rather than worrying about your company's 3% match, for example. So let's get into the first question that I want to ask you to see if paying off debt or investing would be a more viable option for you. What I want to ask you is, what are your financial goals? So if you don't know your goals, ooh, look at that handwriting. These new markers are smooth. These are like butter, dude. If you don't know your goals, this kind of dictates the whole path of which you're going to take. So perfect example, I know people who made $400,000 a year in their mid-20s. They were never satiated. They were never appeased. They were always hungry. They always wanted to make more and more and more. Consume, right? So if you're that type of person, your strategy is going to have to be investing, whether it's in real estate, whether it's in stocks, whether it's in whatever, because you're always going to have that appetite. Only you can answer this question because you know yourself better than I do. Most people are probably going to be somewhere in the middle, okay? The middle class is typically going to be your 8 to 5 W-2 employee. They know they need to invest, but they also have some debt. If you want to be kind of like financially independent by the time you retire and lead a non-stressful life to where your marriage can prosper, you can take care of your kids, you don't have to worry where your next meal is going to come from, you probably would be better off paying off your debt first and then investing. The reason I say that is just because the peace of mind that this gives you, especially in the economy that we may be entering, when it comes to job loss and things like that, especially the cost of healthcare and all that, it's just better to not have debt. That way you don't have to talk about this stuff.
Most of the time, when people get like a car note or car payment, they get it at a rate of like, I think 5 years or so, or 4 years. But you forget, like, instead of like, you would ideally want to pay the car in cash, right? But like, once you take the monthly payment, you don't take into account the fact that you might lose your job. Now you can't pay the monthly payment as often or as frequently, right? Just whenever you can, whenever you have the ability to, just pay the shit in cash, have that thing out of your mind, out of like, it takes a lot of energy and stress to think about, how am I gonna pay, not even like pay rent, but how am I gonna pay this bill this month, or I lost my job, I'm not making as much money. Now I need to like downsize other areas of my life in order to make up for the payment now, right? So whenever you can, just pay the shit in cash, focus on your debt, and then do your investments.
Talk about the stuff we talked about early in the video. When it comes to peace of mind, when it comes to marital stress, when it comes to having to worry about all the overhead of your debt, taking the job you don't want to take, et cetera, et cetera. I remember in 2008, there were articles about people that were CEOs literally delivering pizzas for Domino's. They went from, high 6-figure salary position to having to deliver pizzas just to keep the food on the table, okay? So in my personal opinion, I think that paying off debt for the middle class is the smarter thing to do, and then you can really kick your wealth building into gear. So the second question I want to ask you revolves around time, okay? Time is very important. So time in the market is more important than timing the market, okay? So what is your age? How old are you? Like literally, what is your age? So if you're young, everyone knows that compound interest is one of the eighth wonder of the world, if you want to call it, okay? So the younger you start investing, the more time your money can compound on itself. So here's a perfect example. So if you invest $5,000 a year at 7% from age, I believe it's 21 to 65, guess what this $5,000 a year turns into? Okay, this is a minimal investment. It's not that much in the grand scheme of things. You can bartend, you can drive Uber, you can do whatever. You can make $5,000 like this. It's not that hard. If you invested this for basically 44 years, from age 21 to 65, you would have $1,423,747 in the bank. Okay? Yes, it's not taking into account inflation. It's not taking into account a bunch of other things that can happen between this time frame. However, it's happened, and a lot of people have done this who are now 65 in 2019. Okay? So if this is your goal, I would prioritize investing in that case rather than doing nothing, and also rather than paying off debt. Or you can do kind of a hybrid. As long as you put away, something, maybe max out a Roth IRA at $6,000 a year for 2019. At least start doing that, and then start paying off your debts if you want this to grow, because compounding is a factor that you have to consider when thinking about paying off debt or investing. So number 3, this is probably one of the questions that most people don't even think about. Let's be honest, most people were not taught finance. They're not naturally interested in the markets. They're not naturally interested in real estate investing. They're not naturally interested in knowing how to invest or have that mentality. Most people only know the consumption mentality, especially in the States. So number 3, do you even know what you're doing? Okay, I know this is so obvious, but most people are so eager, so hasty to get into the market. They have FOMO. FOMO is fear of missing out. Okay, FOMO. Oh, I'm on the sidelines. Everyone's investing. Everyone's doing this. So are you someone that's kind of like buying crypto because your Uber driver recommended it, or your Uber driver's talking about it? Are you buying real estate because you bought a $3.95 book on Instagram, one of those corny ads? And if you guys don't follow me on Instagram, I call these dudes out all the time. It is so funny. So if you don't know what you're doing, I would start with a small amount and pay down debt first. And the next question is actually going to parlay right into this. So if you don't know what you're doing, start small. You'll get your bumps and bruises, especially in the economy that I think we're going into. And then ultimately, you can learn how to invest. You can learn how to be more disciplined with your money. And you're also paying down debt at the same time. So that actually leads me into number 4 is, do you even have enough to invest? Okay? Do you have enough money to even invest? The reason I say this is because people invest all of their money, and what they neglect is one of the most important things that you can have if you're being a responsible adult. And that's your emergency fund, okay? I talk about this in a lot of my videos, and that's for a reason.
Emergency fund is at least like $1,000 saved up in your bank account. And then once you ideally want to have the $1,000 saved up, pay the rest of your debt, and then add more to the emergency fund. Ideally anywhere from three months of expenses saved up to about a year's worth of expenses, right? So that means if you quit your job, if you got fired, for the next 3 months to a year, a majority of your expenses will be taken care of. That's how you can sleep sound at night without the worry of living paycheck to paycheck.
It's not because I'm super conservative and hoard all my money in my mattress and I think the recession's coming. That's not the case. Everyone should have an emergency fund whether the economy is good or bad. Okay, so people invest all their money into the market and they're so concerned about making money and fear of missing out that they neglect their own personal financial well-being. So again, I always go back to the analogy of losing your job, or say for example you get hit by a car and you can't earn an income because you're injured. Your emergency fund is what's going to cover you for 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So with this being said, if they do have an emergency and all their money is indeed tied up in a brokerage account or in a 401k, for example, this forces them to incur stupid penalties and taxes and fees, or taking even dumber, they're taking loans against their 401k because they need to use that money for an emergency. So it's going to end up costing you more. It's going to end up wiping out a lot of your return because you're having to dip into the market maybe at an inopportune time. Okay, so the market's down, the emergency happens, you're going to have to touch that money in that account anyway. So build up your emergency fund first. Okay, so having enough money to invest is more important than actually just being in the market itself. That's my personal opinion. So if you don't have enough money to invest in the first place, I'd focus on building up that emergency fund, then deciding whether to invest or pay down debt. So as always, you guys, I know this wasn't earth-shattering stuff. It just helps you flip the paradigm in your head and get the gears moving to understand, hey, should I really pay off this debt or should I invest? So I know I didn't go into math.
So this channel is primarily an addiction channel. I talk about addiction. So my goal is as you're overcoming your addiction and you have more money in your bank account, more money in your wallet, you're no longer spending it on alcohol or weed or as much on coffee. Now you can start thinking about how you really want to utilize how much the increase in money that you now have. You know what I'm saying? So this is some ideas to think about. Ideally, pay down your debt, have an emergency fund, and then work your way towards investing. You know what I'm saying? But God bless, much love, peace, and joy. Namaste. Remember, the motto is to stack your money and act broke. Get your bread and all that comes too. As always, if it doesn't feed you, don't water it. And too much of any good thing is good for nothing. I'ma see y'all in the next video. Deuces.
Yeah. Sweet mother, no go forget you for all the suffer that you suffer for me. Over time you working 9 to 9 for supper for me. But things have changed and you deserve something from me. And nothing paying back your mama is the biggest respect.